The 2023 election is less than 90 days away, and the Independent National Electoral Commissioner, INEC, is facing different challenges as we approach the D-Day. Some of the issues yet to be resolved include attacks on its offices and implications with respect to PVC destroyed ballot boxes generators, among others. There are many other issues raised, whether people can be accredited without the PVC, given that BVAS has a soft copy of the register containing names of voters. Also, we have cases from the outcomes of primaries yet to be decided. Another concern is if INEC innovation can insulate INEC staff from corruption from politicians. Above all, President Muhammadu Buhari has repeatedly continued to declare that he will conduct a free, fair, and credible election as legacy. But is INEC truly independent? So joining us now on the morning show as we discuss these pending issues that need resolutions before the 2023 elections is Mike Igini, former INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner for Akwa Ibom State. Welcome to the show, Mr. Igini, and good to see you once again. Let's just go straight to it. You know, we've been having attacks where a lot of PVC that ought to be collected have been destroyed. INEC is saying, okay, they'll make buffers around that. We know the process might be long. In the place of that, a lot of people have been putting the ideas forward. Now, do people really need to vote with their PVCs? Since most of the work is done with the BVAS to do the accreditation that does your fingers, your biometric, and everything. And the fact that once you are pointed on the BVAS, your facial and everything, it brings out your detail in the end. So can't people vote without their PVC? Isn't INEC looking at it as sort of like an ad hoc plan to what is on ground? Because those PVCs destroyed, I don't see any way we can remediate before 3 months' time that the elections will happen in February. What's your take on this?
Thank you, Rufai and Dr. Abati, for having me. Let me say this here, that the march of human progress does not travel in a straight line. The path to the 2023 election is going to be bumpy. That's not our wish, it's not our desire, but the tragedy is that despite the innovations that we have seen in INEC, that has brought tremendous energy of hope and of integrity to the entire process, this has not been complemented by a change of attitude on the part of the political class, many of whom act like disconnected cartels, and thereby creating a state of anomy in our country. Statutorily, under the current law, voting process is both statutory and procedural. Procedural in the sense that Section 47 of the current Act is very clear. It is to the effect, subsection 2 of it, that an individual who wants to vote must appear with a card to be identified at the polling unit. So, to verify, confirm, and authenticate. So it's a question of law. It's not a question of administrative decision on the part of INEC. That is what the law says must be used. Recall the INEC slogan that has not changed, and that is that no PVC, no voting. Let me quickly tell you the danger of the suggestion that obviously is against the letter and spirit of the 2022 Act, that people could just vote on the basis of the fact that since the soft copy of the register is on the BVAS. It is that the mischief that was intended to cure by the repeal of Section 49 of the previous Act, the 2020 Act, which deals with the fact that a presiding officer, upon being satisfied, which is subjective, giving the presiding officer a huge discretionary power, all right? This is an attempt to go back to that again. Then number 2 is the repeal, an attempt to take this country back again with respect to Section 53 of the Repeal Act that talks about total number of registered voters, where you have to deal with the issue about computation, all right? But that provision, Section 49 of the old Act, Section 53, were the two statutory provisions for politicians doing everything to have so much ineligible people on the INEC register, to have many people who are not qualified to be there. Now, those two sections that have been repealed, all right, is the reason why there's panic in the land. Because Section 51 is now talking about accredited voters. Numbers of accredited voters no longer based on total number of registered voters. So assuming you have, let's say, 5,000 even in a polling unit, it doesn't matter anymore to INEC, all right, with the current system. What is important now is that at the end of the poll, a new register will be produced. This is the reality that has created panic now. Why everything is being done to attack. So statutorily, the use of PVC is something that is mandated by the Act. Now, with respect to what happens to the PVC that have been burnt or destroyed, please, yesterday I had a conversation, which of course the chairman himself, you heard the chairman of the commission, who made it very clear that INEC had the capacity to deal with this situation. It's a question of days, because the VIN number of those individuals whose PVC have been destroyed, the PVC will be produced in a matter of days. Rufai, matter of days. INEC has that capacity. Don't forget that in 2019, where the place I served last in Akwa Ibom, 48 hours to the election, Ibesikpo Asutan, one of the AJ that was attacked, apart from Eastern Obolo, Obotakara, that were all attacked, particularly Ibesikpo Asutan, where all the gen set, the other material were destroyed within 48 hours. We had more than enough corridors are there. Now we are dealing with PVC. So we are dealing with beavers. We had everything to deal with it. So INEC will be able to produce that because INEC had the data, the information of all of those affected. But I think that, Rufai, my real problem, my challenge, my pain for our country is that what is going on, the attack on INEC offices, whether it is not new, it has been there for a very long time. My worry is that we are in a country where we appear to be unable to deal with those who destroy public, both private and public assets. Mind you, the presence of INEC office in the 774 local government of Nigeria is a clear indication of the fact that democracy, the institution of democracy through the process of election, is already there in that local government. In this respect, when we talk about protection of public assets, this asset does not belong to the federal government. It belongs to all of us as a people. The immediate community where these offices are domiciled, they have a responsibility. In fact, to tell you this, in the 2019 that happened in Akwa Ibom, the Ibesikpo Asutan office was renovated with over 16 million. And shortly after renovation, this will all happen. The one that happened in Ebonyi that we'll be talking about, which is the latest now, do you know that the renovation of that project is still ongoing? They had just painted the inner offices and they were to paint outside. Everything had been destroyed today. So the question is, what is the problem? Why are INEC offices being attacked across the country? Recall in 2007 that even the ICT building in Abuja was attacked. And that's why I will need to give information as to what we suspect could be responsible for this. Recall that in the 2007 election, the VSATs for transmission of results from various local governments, they were all installed in the 774 local governments. When I was posted in 2011, 2010, when I was appointed, in Cross River, I met those satellites that were stationed in all the local government. Because INEC announced at that time that it was going to, transmit results from the local government. Now, right now we are now dealing with from the polling unit to tell you the march of progress. We have not even got to the level of polling unit.
Mike?
But the point now is...
Hello? Go ahead if you could just summarize on that point.
Yes, the point I was trying to make here is that the fact that INEC has insisted and based on law is going to use the beavers, is going to use the upload of results, the fact that the level of consciousness and awareness is so high in this country today that the political class now feel that one of the things to do is to destroy the capacity of individuals to vote. Okay. But here is where they have made a fundamental mistake.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, just to pick something from one of the things you said that the community also has a responsibility to ensure the security of INEC facilities. Yes. Okay, because these facilities belong to the people, not necessarily to INEC. Now, let me ask you, after the attack on the INEC office in Abeokuta South and the one in Osun South, there was a meeting summoned by the Inspector General of Police where he promised that policemen will be deployed nationwide, all the 774 local governments, to go and protect INEC offices and facilities. In fact, it was supposed to be a joint operation involving the military, the police, the civil defense. And then after that, weeks after that, we had, this attack in the local government area in Ebonyi State. Could it be the case that the Inspector General of Police and the other security agencies just made that promise and did not take any consequential step to carry out to fulfill their own promise? And then secondly, in Ebonyi State, where we have the latest case, we're told that the government is saying that it will deploy Ebube Agu to go and protect INEC offices in the state. Is Ebube Agu part of the formal, recognized, concentric security circle for the election? And would that fit into your framework that the community has a responsibility also when Ebube Agu had not been carried along in terms of the necessary protocols for protecting INEC facilities?
Dr. Abati, this is the tragedy of our country. The Ebube Agu you talked about, even without even following the protocol, all right, have they been able to do what the governor promised will be done? On the path of the promise made by the police boss, my call this morning is that if that process is on the way, it has not been commenced, we should immediately do that. And I want to add that by virtue of Section 91, as a way of a proposal, Dr. Abati, where the current act for the first time, now in realization of the perhaps manpower capacity of the police, have decided that the Nigerian Security and Defense Corps should now work with Nigerian police. It is my humble suggestion that the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps should now be fully attached to INEC, because I think they bear arms at the moment. At the moment, if you go to INEC offices, the people you find there, they are just sentry, they are watchmen, we call them. They don't have anything. In fact, most of the time, they have to run for their own dear life. So my call this morning is that this is what we need to do. But the question is, we must also look at what is responsible. Why are they attacking INEC offices? What has INEC done? And that's why my intervention, those who have responsibility to do so, we have to do so. But my concern, which is my area of interest and vocation here, as I've promised that I'm going to be happy to educate Nigeria, is that Nigerians, don't be discouraged. These PVCs that have been burnt, INEC is going to produce them. They will be available before the election. But going forward, I think that communities also have responsibility. And that is why, Dr. Abati Abon said this here, one of the things that have failed our security system is what we call lack of investment in the area of intelligence. There's intelligence collapse. There's no way in all the places that have been attacked. I mean, you would have seen that people would have somewhere, those who did all this, they would have been discussing the matter and all that. Now, in those days, we used to have, a situation where under cover security agent like the SIB, the intelligent arm of the police. You is in places mixing up with people and all of that. We don't see that happening again, and that's why they need to collect intelligence. It is security in modern time. It has to do with information, and that's has to do with intelligence. There's a collapse. There's total collapse of intelligence to support, actionable agencies of our country to be able to do their job very well. But it is very concerning that we are going to 2023 election. This has continued to happen. And I see that clearly that those who think that at some point, because the level of awareness now, they are worried about that. The level of voter registration, people are very worried about that. And of course, the impact of social media now in interrogating the candidate, the political party, raising up issues, politicians are not fully aware. And that's why many of them are going to have a dinosaur experience in 2023. Because the impact of social media that is now producing a new type of politics that is based on mass communication of many to many in a decentralized form is changing the whole thing, coupled with INEC innovations that have returned power fully to the Nigerian people. And that is why my message to Nigerian people is that keep your eye on the ball. You will hear all kinds of things. In fact, it is not our wish, but I know it's going to happen, even though we must do everything to prevent it, that as we go forward, you are going to see more. In fact, Dr. Abati, let me tell you, you are hearing about physical attack now. There's also, as we move forward, going to 23, they are going to attack even INEC ad hoc staff system. There are going to be effort, massive effort, that I know is going to happen, to infiltrate the rank and file of the ad hoc recruitment process. That is going to happen. But it is for the commission to stand very strong, firm, and put out guidelines to deal with that. And that is why, if you look at that pyramid that I've already shown to you, that you will see that there's already a suggestion by the commission right now, before I left, that unlike before, where staff of federal agencies are fully charged with responsibility of playing the role of supervising presiding officer, that is not going to happen. Of course, all through the period I worked with INEC for 10 years, I don't deal with staff of federal agencies, because from the record I had, it was clear that politicians will go to the federal agencies, compromise them, and they will send a list to you. But in all the places where I work, if you send a list to me of federal agencies, I request for the nominal role. In fact, the University of Uyo Authority will confirm what I'm saying now, that when I found that collation officers, the ad hoc staff was infiltrated massively, I called the vice chancellor. And if you don't want the reputation of University of Uyo to be in flames, what I want to see happen, please postpone your Senate meeting tomorrow, because in Akwa Ibom here, even though the training is going across the country, it's not going to go on in Akwa Ibom State, having called Abuja to inform of this information. So, and what did they do? The vice chancellor had to make that information. You have to come with your pay slip and your first letter of appointment as a lecturer. That was the only way. But right now, the commission is doing well in terms of that decision, that it is going to be staff of INEC that should play the role of supervising presiding officer, because those are the people who are going to hand over the ballot paper and result sheet to the presiding officer. And of course, you know that at the level of the 176,846 polling unit that we have right now, they are all going to be manned by youth corpus only. It is at the level of work collation officer, local government, and all those levels that we are now going to bring in some of our friends from the academia. So that is where.
Okay, on that note, Mike Igini, let's take this short break, and then when we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Right, we still have Mike Igini, former INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner from Akwa Ibom State. Welcome to the show once again. So, two things. Number one will be, I want to, probe that debate deeper about the use of, so I'm going to ask you two questions. About the use of just beavers to vote. Yes, your argument is the fact that it's not being codified in the law. There's a PVC that has to start the process. But when you look at it, this is still what happens in other parts of the world. You go to an electoral box, it checks your biometrics, and the machine that checks your biometrics is still the machine at which you used to vote on. That's just the difference. So your PVC really, all they take is probably, like you said, your VIN number or the barcode at the back that carries or contains your material, your data. But once you put your fingerprint in the beavers, it is still your data that they want to get from your PVC that comes out on the register. So it still has all of that. So when are we going to just cut the chase and make things quicker and stop the racketeering of printing more cards, which is the case? Secondly, let's talk about the court cases. After a court ruled in favor, against all the candidates in Ogun State, a court again yesterday ruled that all the candidates should be reinstated. So we are having close to 3 to 4 different rulings here and there in Ogun State alone, minus other states. Take, for instance, the Binani case, which a cross first ruled against. Now a court has ruled in favor. Akpabio case, we don't know what is happening. With all of this, can you, give us a cursory look on all what is happening? Because now, it's pretty much indicative that everything is in a state of chaos as we speak.
Thank you, Rufai. With respect to the first question, I don't want us to waste much of our time on that debate because it is a statutory provision. The only thing that we can do is to say we are going to amend it, and nobody should contemplate that now. That's reasonable. Number two, if you go that route at this point, there are people who will challenge the outcome of the election on the basis of the fact that, contrary to the provision of the law, INEC in some places or in some other places deliberately allow people to come and vote without PVC. So let us not go there. Particularly against the background that in our country, we have not seen more of what we call substantive justice. What we've been dealing with when it comes to election matter is more of technical justice. And that's why I'm still carrying my placard in my heart, that not happy with some of the outcome of judicial decision on matters that other require substantive justice, but they will go technical. Don't forget the argument in the after 2015 election with respect to Carida, that versus the hard copy of the register. What was the argument? The technical argument that the court adopted by Supreme Court was to the fact that the Carida was not written in black and white in the Electoral Act, despite the provision of Section 160 of the Constitution that made it very clear, very emphatic, that the power of INEC to make rules, regulations, that it not produce shall not be subject to the control or direction of the most powerful office in the land, that's the office of the president. Despite that, the court went technical. So INEC is being incremental. We are doing everything gradually. This is where the commission is now. Let us try this, and thereafter, after 2023 election, we can go for that argument. Now, with respect to the second question about matters still be in court, Rufai, Dr. Abati, we had conversation on this, and we made it very clear. In fact, it was in Arise Television that kickstarted the issue about the possibility of many candidates, governorship, senatorial, House of Reps, and several state House of Assembly, their candidature will not be known before the 2023 election. This is where we are. So all the cases you are talking about, because they are pre-election matters, the terminal point is the Supreme Court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Until after the Supreme Court decision, that's where we cannot be sure. But where are we now? We are talking about 87 days to this election. 87 days. Many of the cases have not yet been decided at the Federal High Court. Many will have to go to the Court of Appeal, which is 30 days. Then Supreme Court, another 30 days. So we are back again to one aspect where we are not making progress in our democracy. We are not making progress when it comes to issues about party management, issues about party primaries. the novel provisions of the 2022 Act have been violated by political parties, and what we want the court to do is to be strict. And I'm very happy, delighted, that some of the cases that have been heard so far, particularly those ones that had to do with the Court of Appeal, the court have been very emphatic about the decisive role of the report of INEC monitoring of primary at the state level. And that is why all those arguments made by some people that the REC, their reports do not mean anything because they don't belong to the commission, those are absurd arguments, because you could see the 3 panels of the Court of Appeal, 3 panels so far, to the best of my knowledge, and I have copies, have all ruled on the fact that Section 84, subsection 1, was intended to bring sanity to the process of party primary. But regrettably, as we have already said, good laws, as good as they may are, they are not self-executory and not self-implementary. Supreme Court is the final bus stop on those matters.
Okay, Mike, at a recent program organized by the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, the chairman of INEC was quoted as saying that the rate of voter buying has become very alarming. And of course, to think that politicians will not give money, or that the average Nigerian voter will not collect money, is to assume that you can make an omelette without breaking an egg. But my question has to do with INEC officials themselves. Because you were saying now the supervising presiding officers will be INEC officials, as if, you know, they have a certain level of integrity that is special. The same INEC officials that were manipulating voters' register, and 23 of them had to be identified by the establishment. So how can INEC itself insulate its own officials from corruption, both before, during, and after the election?
And after. Dr. Abadi, thank you very much. To be honest, it's a moral choice of individuals. If you are called upon in a position of an umpire, you must act like Caesar's wife. 2, any matter that affects public interests, and you are put in a position to make that a determination, such matter must not be left to the morality of individual judgment. That is why there is law. The greatest tragedy of our country is that we have no respect for the rule of law in our country. Now, as to issue about corruption, you see, every leader must lead by example. Corruption is pervasive. INEC staff, they are not insulated. There's no doubt about that. But about it, I can say this here with all humility, that I served for 10 years. I never asked one staff of INEC for 10 years to do anything for anybody. I never had any meeting, conversation with any politician born of a woman for the purpose of winning election. Now, how do we insulate them? Now, part of the problem of corruption, and it's not only in INEC, is about our reward system. Our reward system is responsible for corruption in our country. You can imagine INEC staff who are EO directors. Do you know how much they paid EOs? What the EO earn? What a councillor earns, and EO, they don't earn that at all. And so you could see that people are doing such an important job. We are bringing people to public offices, are not well paid. INEC staff are not well paid. And that is why the notice of retirement is like death notice to INEC people. And that is why there are some who think that election period is a period to see what we could do to make money. But the beauty of the current INEC innovation and process, but on that point, I've argued that the next government must ensure that the remuneration of INEC must be taken out from the civil service, to have its own system. But so far, from Jega time to the current leadership of Mahmoud, they have done enough. In particularly from Iwu's time, that is one thing you cannot take from Iwu, from the record that Iwu is one of the first, chair of the commission who thought that, look, the glory of a king must reflect in the life of the people. And he did so well when it comes to welfare of INEC staff. But at the moment, the chairman has also done it well. We're there, but it is not enough. So we need to deal with that. However, the fact that you are not well paid is not a reason why you must surrender, compromise the values that underpin your job, which are integrity, impartiality, honesty that is required. Now, for INEC staff, to insulate them, INEC process and procedure now, Dr. Abati, is the greatest, game changer that we have. Today in INEC, let me be clear. When I tell people that, look, power is back with Nigerian people, that's why there's moral panic. It is that an EO cannot help a politician anymore, not again. A resident electoral commissioner cannot do anything, cannot help you. A national commissioner cannot help a politician. The chairman of INEC cannot help anybody, because on the day of election, none of these categories of individuals that I've mentioned will have a signature, have anything to do with from EC, with the ballot result sheet from ET8A and all of that. It's not going to happen. And that's why I laugh at politicians who are just unnecessarily going to spend money. And of course, right now, there are some characters, some jesters who are, parading some solution to politicians, and they are falling over themselves. They are going to waste their time. I have said on this Arise TV, Dr. Abati, that there are some very profound provision in that act that even if we put gun on my head, I will not mention them, because those provisions are meant to act as a shield and as a sword against those who will attempt, because those provisions are meant to protect Nigerian people. So in terms of corruption and insulation, INEC processes are now designed in such a way that every attempt or any attempt for you to want to overrun through the system, the evidence trail of your wrongdoing will be so obvious. You will not benefit from it, but you'll be caught. That's the beauty of the whole thing. Because, how many of Nigeria know that INEC has what they call something that is domiciled in Abuja head office, the Election Management Support Center that is in Abuja. It gives INEC 360-degree views, and it has about 3 tools. And of course, we've shown that in this program before. You have the election risk management that tracks all potential attempts of interference across the country. It is done domicile. We have one the center in each of the states of the federation. Then you have the EOSC, which is the most potent one. Every 15 minutes, there will be a report as to what happened in each of the local government and so on and so forth. So, Abati, look, a people must have something to build on. The ill of democracy can only be cured by more democracy. The greatest danger of our democracy remain political class who are acting like disconnected cartel. Regrettably for them, unfortunately for them, and the good news for Nigerian people, this one is out of their hand at the moment. How God did it for us, I really cannot tell. But we must thank the National Assembly. We must thank the President for signing this beautiful piece of legislation. What is now left for us now is to ensure that these provisions are enforced fully, fairly, and impartially.
Okay.
To deliver on credible election.
Well, I'd say a very big thank you to you, Mr. Mike Igini, former Resident Electoral Officer of INEC. Thank you so much for your time.